Hi, Ruchika. I'm so excited you're here with me today, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you. So, why don't we start with I want you to share your story with how you woke up one day and you decided, I'm done. I need to move on. I know you've been with Google for many, many years. That's been a great journey for you. I know you and I have talked about how grateful you are for all the experience you had at Google, but at some point of time, you decided enough, it's time to pursue a bigger purpose in life. So, what was that bigger purpose? And share a little bit of your background with all your years of experience at Google.
Thank you, Milena, for having me with you today. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I think like my real awakening happened when I found the practice of self-care and self-awareness, and that actually happened at Google for me. So I'm like incredibly grateful and feel hugely privileged that I was at the right place and right time. As challenging life always is, it's always also trying to show us the opportunity to learn from those challenges. So, my journey into mindfulness and meditation really started at Google, like about 12, 13 years ago. I was at Google for 15 years. I was practicing a lot of the well-being practices there in the middle of a very hustling culture to kind of really play on the movement that you are on. And I was actually enjoying the ride of this like hustle, to be honest. I really was drinking from a fire hose, learning a lot, and at the same time struggling, with my wellness, with the sense of balance and harmony. And you know, uh, then I transitioned into running the well-being learning experiences for our colleagues at Google, and I did that for 8 years. Um, why did I leave Google and what the awakening came? I think my time and job and role at Google concluded. We all kind of feel like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue doing all my life. And, I think the self awareness leads you into a place where the time has come and you bow down to all the great things that great place, people around, taught you. And then you look at the horizon and see like what's coming up next for me and what is calling me. And it was pretty clear to me that, I think it's time to expand my wings and fly away and see where do I want to land next. And so that's how I left with a lot of gratitude in my heart and a lot of learning in my life and a lot of freedom that I'm enjoying now.
So, what is on the horizon for you right now, and what is the purpose that you're stepping in?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. It's just been about 4.5 months since I left, and to be honest, I'm I'm hustling for a very good sense of purpose right now, right? Like my life feels very aligned with my sense of being, my sense of purpose. And that is about bringing more mindfulness, compassion, and human connection to many people around the world. And I come from the place of being a beneficiary of it, being given the gift of practice, given the gift of community, the gift of knowledge that keeps like sharing and giving more. And the way I'm kind of approaching this is like to see how I can take all of that experience and this passion and support more organizations, if I may, in helping them enable their communities from within to empower their employees to unhustle in our language here, or become more self-aware and make more effective choices about their work and their home and their personal life, howsoever they want to approach. So that's one thing. And then I'm also supporting a lot of technological advancement in the wellness space, be it the wearables that are helping us, giving us some good information on how is our health, some apps that are, very instrumental, online communities that are also supporting each other. So those are like a couple of main areas that are coming up and just seeing like what my role is in those areas.
So it looks to me like from the website that you're doing a lot of advising for human type technologies. Can you explain what a human technology is?
Yeah, good for humans, technology.
Good for humans technology, that's right.
I worked in technology industry all throughout my 25 years of corporate, experience. I started my career at Microsoft, then I worked at Cisco, then I went to Google, and I have high regard for technology. As great as it is, and we have just experienced in COVID times, we were able to connect with each other, connect with people we've never connected with because Zoom was available, Google Meet is available, and I think it has really truly transformed our lives for a lot of good things. But there are some harmful things happening, intentionally, unintentionally, through technology as well. And what I'm trying to be helpful about is like, how do we inform the direction of technology? So it's supporting human beings' health, helping them flourish, helping them thrive, infuse their life with vigor and vitality rather than take away from it. As we've seen, the technology adoption, especially with smartphones, has gone up alongside loneliness has gone up. As we've seen, there are more subscribers for Facebook and Instagram. I have nothing against any of these companies. I'm a subscriber to it. I have accounts everywhere. I'm grateful that I can connect with people around the world. The more friends we have, like on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchats and TikToks, I feel like, we are also having less and less real human interaction. So my hope with this work is that, what can technology do to enable us to reconnect with our true self and then connect with each other and find a way to, from this online world, to go back into the offline world, because that's where the real life happens, right? Like, sitting, with a friend, having a cup of tea, having dinner with someone, sharing a moment with someone. So that's my
Why? Yeah, why do you think that is? It's something, while I've been working on the Unhustle book, I've seen as well in research that loneliness is up. It's a pandemic, and especially with the new generation, I like to refer to them as I-humans because they're digital first, right? Their digital lives come first before real lives. I mean, they're born with a phone in their hands. They're born on Instagram. They took their first breath on Facebook, whether they wanted it or not. So where do you see this new generation of people going, and how is this going to work with technology in the workplace and work from home and all these trends that we're seeing? People want to work remotely. People want more flexibility. They don't necessarily want to go back to an office. So there's a lot of questions I just launched at you, but basically, how do you see the future of work?
Mm. Well, I think it's still to be decided. And I think it's going to be evolutionary from here on. I know a lot of people are making assessments of like, it's going to be a hybrid world. Well, clearly it is going to be a hybrid world. Partly it was a hybrid world, even before pandemic came. It wasn't at this great extent. Work from home was not a foreign concept before, pandemic came. I think our humanity, workplace humanity, were already moving towards that. And it definitely got exaggerated, like because of COVID, everyone was working from home. And now that the offices are opening, which we are still not sure of because of the Delta variant being on a rise, every country is in different place, different time, different intensity of managing and tackling COVID in their areas. A lot of it is, we can have opinions and conclusions and base our decisions on the data, but in my mind, it's really undecided. However, I don't know if it's COVID related or not, but I think there is a real evolution happening in the future of work. I was reading an article just a week ago where it said 4 million Americans have resigned their work, the full-time work this year. That's like unprecedented, like we have, unemployment challenges when people can't find a job. So it's quite interesting to sit back and observe, like, why are people leaving the job? And there's so much uncertainty in, and I'm one of those 4 million people, right? Like I left a job this year, right?
The
So
Great Resignation. Here we
yeah, the
go.
Great Resignation era, right? I think the work has been redefined, like, with this whole gig economy where people can get projects on Upwork, drive an Uber or Lyft, and or do like any small projects. Like, I could be an administrative business partner and have 5 clients that I work with, and I can make enough money than having a full-time administrative business partner role for one organization, and go through all of the challenges that come with being part of an organization, and the benefits too. Don't get me wrong, they're like, I've been living on benefits of corporates for a very long time, so, and I know how much that is appreciated. But I have a daughter who's like ready to go to college as well, so I look at this generation and I don't see them looking at work the way I looked at it. I was like, I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to find a really good job. I'll have predictable income and I'll know which apartment I can live in and how much food I can have on plate. When can I buy a car? They don't care about those kind of things, right? Like, they're like, I don't need to learn how to drive. I can just Uber go from one place to the other. I don't
I
need to
can
have,
just Airbnb.
I
I
can
don't
just,
need a house.
right? And I don't need like a full-time job. I can get 5 jobs and I can have no boss or 5 bosses, right? Like, it just distributes the sense of like being, right? And the choice that people have has gone up. So it is such an interesting field of like future of work, right? Like, how will this get defined? And I'm sure some theories will come out on this. But if we can just be an observer and just read up and talk to the younger generations, we know that it's not going to be the way it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's going to be very different. And I think evolutionary, psychology also tells us like that's how it is. Like when we had factory workers, like they worked very differently, right? 9 to 5, they would shut down after 5 o'clock, go watch TV, read the newspaper, have the drink, or eat food. We don't do that. We're constantly on right now. It could be like 2 a.m. and I could be working on a project right now, right?
Right.
And in 10 or 20 years, it's not going to look the same as it is today. And we're seeing some signs of it already.
Right. Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think the combination of the pandemic, the work from home, which I've worked from home for the past 9 years, so it wasn't anything new to me, but a lot of people didn't have that option. The technology advancement, which a lot of companies had to step into that technology advancement against. I've been doing digital marketing for 20 years, trying to tell people that they need to do more stuff online. And now all of a sudden, overnight, everybody decided to go online or try to shift their focus to online business model of some sorts. I find it very interesting. But on top of that, this new generation of humans who are, they want flexibility, they want more freedom, they want to have experiences now instead of working 24/7. So all of these things are really going to redefine how we live, how we work, how we play. So I find it fascinating to look at and research and see what companies are doing. And at the same time, big companies like Google, let's say, are run by native analogs saying we need to get everybody back in the office. So that's not going to work for that new generation, right? And then there are companies like in JP Morgan saying we need to work 90 hours a week, and that way it won't take you 5 years to get to where you need to be to know your job. So I find it fascinating because I think people, especially the young generation, are going to define how they live first and then figure out how they want to supplement their lifestyle.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah, I think those are really good, important points. And in terms, it's a mindset shift, right? Like at an organization level, it's a mindset shift. And when these changes come, we organizations need to learn and adapt. And I think the wise organizations are going to be open to that. That's how they will keep the talent. Otherwise, I think the job opportunities are available if you have the skills and the capabilities and the experience and the motivation, and you're passionate, you're creative. Any of us can find like a job to do. And at the same time, for organizations to keep and retain that good talent, for them to think about creative ways on what does workplace flexibility look like, How do we then pay people? Like, let's say if someone in their organization wants to work 3 months from London and 3 months from India, 3 months from Australia, and 3 months from America, how should that employee be paid, right? Like, I spent a lot of time in HR where we did compensation reviews for employees and performance management and all of that stuff. Like, it's a big challenge. Like, I would think if I was still in that position for me to then say, okay, I don't know half of the people in my company, what is their like place? Like, the pay grades in India ranges are very different as compared to when you live in California, where you pay so much money to like even rent a place, right? So the cost of living really impacts the pay grades of us. So it's a complex challenge, and I think that's why I say it is going to take time for people to find the new norms. I think the working generation is finding their new norms. They're pretty clear about it. Most of them are, and we're seeing in their behavior and their choices. But for organization leaders to tune in into that and find solutions, um, it's gonna come. I don't know if we're there yet.
No, I don't think we're there yet, but it's coming. It's coming for sure. Tell me from your perspective, well-being and mindfulness in the workplace. Why is this so critical?
Mm. Yeah, why is this so critical?
Why is well-being so critical for companies to consider as I guess how does it affect the bottom line of a company?
I think it has a very direct relationship. If I'm not feeling well as an employee, or if I am, not in good mental health, good physical health, good emotional health, guess what? You're just getting very less percentage of my capability that I can provide to you. I'm not saying that organizations are the only drivers or the only owners of well-being. If I can speak to like how I look at well-being in organizations and then come to the answer to the question that you're asking me, Milena. I look at the well-being when it comes to workplace well-being. It rests at three levels. The first level is, of course, an organization should take responsibility for their employee well-being. It's not like the dog eat dog culture is not sustainable, right? Like if there's just like so much competition, and that people are having a hard time to just breathe, and like work as creatively as they can, then I think everybody is like experiencing a loss, not just that individual who's feeling that. So the organization needs to kind of give some options for employee well-being. And, typically it's like caring for their physical well-being. They're feeling safe at work. They have ways to keep their, body, mind healthy, right? Like providing some learning options for them. So anything an organization can do, budget it, right? Like create some budgets for taking care of their employee well-being, because if they are not well, you're not getting the full potential out of them. And I don't say it selfishly. I think the employees want to give their full potential when they come on board. And if they are only stressed by the work that is given in organizations, they're not going to do well. Secondly, the well-being of people is resting in managers and leaders' hands, right? If the leader is modeling behaviors of being 24/7 on, and they go on vacation, even if they're sipping on their fancy drink and sending emails from the beach, what their employees are going to think is like, I'm supposed to be on email when I'm on vacation as well. And there's enough science out there that we as human beings, in order to have more resilience, we need recovery time. So having the weekends off or the evenings off, or taking 10 days, 20 days a year is very significant for us to come back with more vigor and vitality to provide and share more of our talents and skills and energy. So the managers really need to take the responsibility. We also need to remember that, which is also the third layer, that managers are human beings too, right? So they should really give themselves permission, and not for the role modeling piece of it. It's not like, hey, okay, I'm not going to send an email, but I can bang out these 2 presentations while I'm like sitting on the beach. Don't do that. Really, like, take that vacation so you can rejuvenate. The third is like in the hands of the individuals, right? I cannot say like, here's my, box of well-being, and now manager is your responsibility and organization is your responsibility to take care of it. My organization can provide me 10 programs, 10, 20 sessions free with therapists, gyms, exercise machines, food. If I'm like sitting on my phone all day, what's the point of all of those resources being available? So I, as an individual, need to start knowing, what do I want for my own well-being? So remember, like, you are an identity on your own before you're part of an organization, right? Like, your organizations will change and shift, your managers will change and shift. But as a human being, you need to take responsibility for your own well-being. So my encouragement there is like, to now coming back to answering your question, why is well-being important to them, to an organization? I think it's not just an organization question. It's a question for leadership, because that's where the breakdown happens, or the enablement happens of well-being. And then at an individual level also, taking the responsibility and drawing the boundaries, and taking care of yourself comes first, right? So that's how I look at it. And I can talk more about mindfulness, but I also want to be mindful of the time we have.
I know we're almost running out. I want to know from your personal experience. You said you were, in the hustle at Google, and you were drinking from that fountain. How were you able to find and create boundaries? Because you have a family, you have children. You weren't 100% dedicating all of your time to work, I'm assuming. You also had a little bit of family obligations.
Yeah, initially as a young professional, I was dedicating a lot more time to my work. But then I was also, I didn't have that much responsibility with kids and all, right? So when kids came, then it was definitely became more important. Like, wow, I need to cook meals. I need to play with my children. I need to like give them a bath, read them a storybook, and like, spend time with my partner and all of those things. So, and I am of that tendency, I'll be very honest, that I like to hustle. Like, I like to work on 3 or 4 like different projects, and I keep them lit up all the time, right? So, and then, I started feeling the physical, and mental challenges with going at that pace. And that's when mindfulness came into my life and yoga came into my life. So I started, like, that was my formal practice within Google. Like, we would go and sit and do meditation, and that was like really hard to just sit for 20 minutes and do nothing. Like, a person like me, not a good thing, right? Not a happy thing. But then eventually I started realizing benefits of that. I had more focus, I had more clarity, I had more self-awareness. I could regulate, and choose how I want to be, how I want to spend my time. What do I want to do when? I could sleep better. And then it just kind of became a habit. And going for a weekly yoga class and practicing it at home, then that one domino leads to the other, and then that one led to, like, okay, how do I eat healthier? How do I take disconnected vacation? So one thing led to the other. I was there is like this way of like approaching where you could be a segmenter, your work style, or you could be an integrator. And we did the study at Google where we found that people who actually segment their work time from their personal time and really take time to recover every day. It's not like like work your ass off like for 11 months and then take 1 month vacation. Great, do that, but also have recovery time every day built into it, into your life. So really, like, becoming habitual of like doing my morning meditation and yoga enabled me to be more pleasant to my children and pleasant to my coworkers, have more clarity on the deadlines and the projects I wanted to work on, know when I want to say yes, know when I want to say no. All of that became really, really very clear to me, like, as I started taking ownership of my well-being. I tell you, food, exercise machines, meditation rooms were always available, at Google for me. But up until I took that first step and I made it a priority, nobody could force me to do any of those things.
And that's why I love talking to you, because you actually walk the talk. And a lot of people, a lot of leaders, including leaders, they understand the value of it. They talk about it, but they don't do it.
Yeah. And you know why I want to ask those leaders, like if they're listening, like why wouldn't they walk the talk, right? Like my biggest realization came that I have very limited time on this planet. In big scheme of things, and we've just gone through a really hard challenge and still going through losing a lot of loved ones in our lives. There is a finite amount of time we have on this planet. How do we want to live that time? What choice are we going to make? What type of food we want to eat? What air we want to breathe? How much do we want to sleep? All of that is like so critical to be mindful and thoughtful about. And also know, like, even if you look back at your life and say, when you were stressed out about your high school or your college or your job, does all of that matter now? No, not really, right? So today is not going to be so significant. 5 years down the line, you'll probably not even remember you heard this talk or not. But what would be significant is like, what is the investment you've made today in getting that walk in, eating good food, calling a friend, being present with your child, all of that will matter in 5 years. But the extra stress is not going to be so helpful.
So you were a hustler, and there is part of that hustle that really is inspiring, and you get dopamine out of it, and you put your identity in it, and you thrive on accomplishments and your achievements. Why do you think people have a hard time stepping out of it?
Uh, it's like kind of the analogy that comes to me is like we get on the hamster wheel and then we don't know what, like hustle can be equated to like, I'm on a hamster wheel and I'm just continuing to go and I'm not going anywhere. Just on that hamster wheel. But I
Or
think,
sometimes you might be going somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of achievements and certain success status that maybe you're achieving, and that's even so more addictive.
yeah, I think that's a very good point that you make, Milena. And I would invite people to know, what are they hustling towards? Just write that down on a piece of paper. Are you hustling to have better salary? I think it's okay to hustle to have a better salary. Like, we all need financial security, a good car, a proper home, good food, maybe one vacation we can take each year. I think we all deserve that. On Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we know if our fundamental needs are not met of clothing, shelter, and food, then, there is no, the scope for self-actualization is further away than once we have our basic needs met. So I think hustling for that is good, but know that you're hustling through this body and this mind. So you need to take care of it. So taking that break is important. I would say when you're in it, advancing in your life in terms of the age or even the amount of money you made, there's like really no stopping to any of that, right? The greed doesn't end. So what I invite people to do is like find your purpose. Like, why are you here? What, like if you have all your basic needs met, um, why do you want to hustle? Do you want to hustle to make another, $500,000 or get another car? Or do you want to hustle for something that's meaningful? I look at it and I say, like, on my last day on this planet, if I can be proud of something that I did, what would I have done? I ask that question every day and I look at every opportunity that comes my way to look at it from that lens. Like, would I have been helpful talking to people in this podcast with you, Milena? I think so, because I heard many podcasts that were helpful to me and brought me to my awakening. And hopefully, if these experiences can be helpful for someone. And on my deathbed, I'm like, yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation with Milena. But gosh, like if I had to like do something, and I know not everybody has the privilege of doing, the kind of work we do, but like really reorient, like why am I looking for more sales or more business or more clients or more salary increases? What is it that I'm really chasing? And there are a lot of avenues for you to explore that out there, so we won't get into the details of it right now.
Well, thank you, Ruchika. I couldn't agree with you more. It just comes down to what are your values and what do you really want to, what kind of life do you really want to live? And then again, how do you want to support that? Because if we're just blindly chasing material possessions or titles or promotions or all these ego-driven activities, it leaves very little for the being part of life.
Yes.
So tell me, I know I want to be mindful of your time. Tell me what's going on right now in the world of Ruchika, and what do you see, where do you see yourself 3 years from now?
Where do I see 3 years from now? Like one title I always have with me is I'm a constant learner. So I'm learning a lot right now. And that just like helps me ease out, like drop my shoulders, drop everything. Like I want to do this and I want to do that. This is my unhustle strategy. Be a
I
learner.
like it. I like
That's
it.
it. So, but other than that, like I've created a company called Mandala Ventures, and there are a few areas that I'm focused on. My mission is to create conditions for people to learn and practice mindfulness, compassion, and be connected to each other, everywhere, and just really make it accessible. And in order to do that, I'm exploring a few different avenues. Like how do I take the experience I had in Google of bringing corporate trainings on mindfulness and wellness, and then really enable the communities within organizations. So it's not like they need Ruchika to come in and give a training, every 3 months, but how can I create like 10 volunteers? Like I can train them and then they can take that forward, make those 10 volunteers go to 100 go to 500, right? Like, and that's how the culture and the DNA changes. So I'm curious about that approach and, creating some, offerings around that. Secondly, I'm supporting startups, who are oriented towards creating more mindful society, helping people with their inner work, and also really be, create conditions for connection for each other, especially like given how big our loneliness numbers are showing in our stats right now, even though everybody is so connected online. And then the third thing is, I'm also really trying to figure out like, well, like how do we, and this is with some partners like around here in Silicon Valley, where we're exploring how to enable this field of technology and innovation growth in the well-being space. Because as we were talking before we started recording, I think the technology, of course, is here to stay, and it is so beneficial in many ways. And we also know it has some harmful side effects. So how do we inform the technology so it's kind of enabling more wellness, more human connection, more mindfulness and compassion in the world? So looking into like creating some support and resources for the startup founders for that. So those are a few things that I'm playing with and learning a lot, in the process.
Oh, I think they're all fascinating things. Like I told you before we start recording, I downloaded one of the apps that you're connected with, and it's kind of enabled me to see. They assessed my mental health, my anxiety, my stress level, and then gave me some tips. I forgot the name of the app. Cosmos, I think.
Yeah, human cosmos. Yeah.
Human Cosmos. Yeah, it was just fascinating to see from a completely different perspective how you can get more optimized from a human perspective and still use technology in the palm of your hand that can give you tips and practices on a daily basis. So I think it's fascinating the work that you're doing, and very, very meaningful. And I wish you good luck with it. I think it's extremely valuable what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Milena.
Thank you so much for your time with me today. I really, really appreciate it. And I wish you good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for starting this movement. I think we all are hustlers, like in one way or the other.
I
I
know
think
I
some
was.
people, I know there are some people who reach their nirvana or whatever we call it, and they've like found that place. But for the rest of us, we need to have a community and reinforcement that, life can be more beautiful, and we can organize ourselves so that, we're not hustling all the time and doing good work, but, with ease and calm.
That's right. Thank you so much, Ruchika.
Thank
Have a great
you.
rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.